Hi guys and welcome to Whiskey Geek. I hope you're doing well today. I'm the Geek and today's whiskey is the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. Now Bunnahabhain is probably one of the most mispronounced distilleries going. They've even taken it on themselves to put a phonetic spelling on the tube. Bunnahabhain. You only pronounce the first B and it comes out Bunnahabhain. That name comes from the Gaelic for mouth of the river. This is a distillery that's been set up just north of Port Ascaig in a particularly hard to reach area. Now they didn't really have any road access until about 1960, so all supplies had to come by boat and all of the distillery workers obviously had to live local, commuting wasn't an option, so the town of Bunnahabhain was built around the distillery to sustain and house the workers. I get the impression this is quite a quaint little place, so I'm really looking forward to visiting and exploring. So Bunnahabhain seem quite keen to break the mould for an Islay whiskey. They've not gone for that heavily peated character that you come to expect. In fact, the couple of times that this has come up in a blind tasting for me, I've not even really registered it as peated, never mind an Islay. So the 12-year-old is the distillery's core expression, joined by an 18-year-old and a 25-year-old to complete the core range, and then there's a host of travel exclusives and special releases that they're putting out, and they're fairly well sought after. Personally, I quite like their approach. I like people trying to break the mould or contradict expectations, do something a little bit interesting. I do like the packaging, although I get a little bit frustrated with black glass. Though you can't really see it. This is about halfway empty now. Now I've done quite a generous pour here because I want to try and explore that peaty tone. So I'm going to pour a second whiskey, something a bit lighter, to contrast, and I'll after the review I'll do a side-by-side tasting and see what I can pull out. Now the Auchentoshan American Oak is perfect for this kind of thing. I find it to be quite subtle, easy-going flavours, but not a pushover. There is enough there to do a contrast, but it's certainly not peaty. So this 12-year-old is presented naturally, unchill filtered, natural colour, 46.3%, and it's aged in ex-bourbon and ex-sherry. Let's take a look at the colour, and for once I'm recording early enough in the day to be using natural light, which is novel. I'm putting that down as shade 10, Amontillado. The nose on this whiskey is great, it's really rich. Loads of fruit and dates. You can tell there's a heavy vinous influence, but for me, I'd kind of identify it more as port than sherry. It's quite a rich woody influence. There's a lot of like jams, preserves, citrusy marmalade, a little bit sharp, nectarines and a little bit resinous, fresh grass, that kind of tone. It's opening up really nicely and there's like an earthy chocolate and nut coming through. There is a citrusy prickle, but it's not cloying, it's not distracting from anything. This is an excellent 12-year-old, it's got loads going on, loads to explore. Now let's give it a try on the palate. There's some rich jammy fruits again, plums and citrus. It's got a nice oily mouthfeel. There's a resinous high note, a little bit grassy, fresh. There's a woody must, maybe a little bit of cask char. And there's a pepper that's accumulating on top of that quite nicely. It's really very pleasant. The finish is warm and quite long. There's a bit of a peppery prickle, some ginger. Still a musty oak in there. And I can kind of find some cask char again, but it's definitely something that I'm looking for, it's not jumping out at me. Even though this is only bottled at 46%, it does open up quite nicely with a little bit of water. Really emphasises the dates and the citrus. Starts to show a little bit more pepper on the nose as well. Brown sugars and caramel. That kind of hazelnut really comes through as well. Maybe a bit more sulphur on the finish. Again, I'm looking for it rather than it coming to me though. Now I'm going to play it off this American Oak and see if I can emphasise and pull out any peat or smoke. This really just emphasises the importance of getting ordering right for a flight. Going from something as rich as the Bunnahabhain to this, it feels really, really muted, really subtle. Floral, coconutty, that citrus that I normally get is pretty much absent. It's quite buttery though, even on the nose you can tell it's got a good body. This almost seems like new make spirit in comparison. It's pulling out loads more of the caramel, the dark sugars. Nope, No cask char, no smoke. It's emphasising the sherry influence a lot, but I'm still not getting anything peaty. Now the reason I'm really interested to do this is because the second my brother sniffed this, he picked up on a very subtle whiff of peat. He could tell it was an Islay, but I think I'm so accustomed to the stronger stuff that it just goes past me. The Auchentoshan is coming alive a bit more on the palate. Floral, vanilla-y. It doesn't even register as smoky to me. The American oak is super pale and mellow in comparison. I got something there, a tiny little hint of like a mossy, earthy peat, just mid-palate for a brief second. Side by side, this really bullies the Auchentoshan American oak. It just overpowers it entirely. So Bunnahabhain say that there is a subtle smoke, but my palate must be too far gone to really register that. I don't identify this as peated at all. I do, however, really enjoy it as a whiskey. I've rated it an 86 out of 100. It's really nicely crafted, really full-bodied, plenty of rich flavours. Change of pace for an Islay, but not in a bad way at all. So thanks for watching, guys, and shout out to those MBs who voted for this whiskey in a recent poll. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please drop a like and a comment below and consider subscribing for more whiskey antics. Cheers.